So what did Moses do? Anybody? Yeah. He, yeah, with God's help, he was able to part the Red Sea. And why was he parting the Red Sea? So that who could escape? Yeah, the Jews could escape from slavery in Egypt, right? And that's it. That's the end of the story. They're saved and hooray. Yeah, no, not quite, right? There's actually like 40 years more, right? We don't have time for that. So what instead we'll do is we'll talk about kind of their journey through the desert. Okay? Any of y'all ever been to a desert? Yeah, it's how would you describe it? Like hot, maybe? Like the sun is always out, right? So that is exactly true, right? And if you know, there's not a whole lot of food available in the middle of a desert, right? So these people, the Jews, God's chosen people, they were like, hey, like what happened? We're God's chosen people and we have like no food. When we were slaves, we at least had food to eat. Why, Moses, did you bring us out of slavery into this? Moses is like, oh my goodness, really? I saved you with God's help. We saved you and you're complaining? He's like, oh man. And so what do we do whenever we need help from God? Prayer. That's a really good answer, right? So Moses, he needed a lot of help from God, right? And so Moses is talking to God, and God's like, all right, I hear everybody complaining. Saving them wasn't enough. So I'm going to provide them with food, since that seems to be what they want. So in the morning, I will make it where there is bread for you to eat. But I need you to only take exactly as much as you need. Leave the rest. Only take as much as you need. And every day, I will let you take exactly what you need. Except for Saturday, because on Sunday, you're not going to work. So on Saturday, take double of what you need so that you can have some for Sunday. And Moses is like, all right, I'm going to go tell them, but you know these people, they're very grumbly. So he goes to tell them, and he says exactly what God told him. And the people will say, okay, sure, that sounds fine. And so in the morning, they look around and they're like, what is all of this on the ground? And Moses is like, hey, remember how I told you God would give us food? And they're like, oh yeah, that's right. So they go and they gather. Now some people didn't follow what God wanted. Instead, they gathered all that they could carry. And so they brought it back to their tents, and they ate what they could, and the leftover, God didn't want them to have it. So it turned all moldy and filled with maggots. Does that sound pretty cool, right? I would be like, wait, I just ate from that. Right? But that was God. He was saying, I told you, only take exactly what you need. The rest, you can't have it. It's not for you. And so then on the sixth day, the people started to gather double the amount, just like they were supposed to, because by then they had started to kind of figure it out. And so that, they had gathered double, that extra didn't go bad. Instead, it stayed fresh so that the next day, on the Sabbath, they didn't have to worry about finding food. Right? So I like this story of Moses in the desert because it kind of shows us that even when we're in the middle of a desert against all sorts of odds, right, God's got our back. Do we deserve it? No, right? These people were constantly complaining. They were like, oh my gosh, like you saved us from slavery and no food. Like, come on, man, right? But God is like, I'm going to love you anyways. I'm going to continue to love you, and I'm going to continue to provide for you. And that's what he did even in the middle of a desert.